I was tagged 5 times for this particular tag. I'm not quite sure what that says. Hello, my name is Gavin. This is Genre Books. It's Tuesday, it's Tag Tuesday, and this is the Snob-O-Meter tag, first created by that reading guy, and I was tagged this week by Suey's Book Banter, Quaint and Curious Volumes Must Read More, Book Chat with Pat, and The Reading Hour. So thank you to all of you. I think there are 12 prompts, and the first prompt is, what is your definition of book snobbery? It's an exaggerated respect for literature that you deem to be of literary worth. And it is seeking to associate yourself with that literature. It is the belief that your tastes in that literature are superior to the tastes of others. Prompt number 2. Is there a genre or type of book that you would never consider reading, such as you would never read a romance, or if you regularly read romance, you would never read a science fiction novel? I would have to say yes. There are genres of books I would never consider reading. And I think I have a fairly wide enough spectrum of books that I do already read. I don't think I'll be reading celeb biographies or autobiographies. I find them a little bit shallow and self-serving. The same goes, possibly more so, for a certain type of political book. I have no problem with books about politics. I have no problem with books about policy. I do have a problem with books as an extended advertisement for your run at public office. And not that I read many children's books. I don't think I would like to read children's books by, again, celebrity authors. I think it is quite cynical to think that I'll write a children's book. Anybody can write a children's book. I think it's dismissive of professional children's book authors and the efforts that they put in. I'm sure there are exceptions to this rule, and maybe that's me being too dismissive, saying I will never read any of them. But, I'm just not likely to. So in saying never about these 3 types of books, is that snobbery? Possibly. It is the influx of celebrity biographies and autobiographies that you find in shops in late October, and you will find in the bargain shops first week of January. I realise no one writes a book for it to be a financial failure, but putting a book out knowing that you're an autobiography or a biography of someone who is in their mid-20s because they've been on a couple of reality shows, I think it's just cynical in its construction and its publication. So maybe not snobbery, I'm just disliking the publishers. Prompt number 3. Does erotica count as literature? Yes. People have long been arguing which literature counts as erotica. So people have already made the decision that it's literature in the first place. A lot of it won't be any good, but you could say that about most book subjects. But you can't dismiss it out of hand. What are you going to do with a Henry Miller or an I.S. Nin? I think there's another discussion to be had of what the fine line between erotica and smut. Are they the same thing? Is smut literature? It gets a bit more confusing. But yeah, I'd just stick with erotica counts. Prompt number 4. Is it better to read classic books than popular bestsellers? Yes, probably. Why not? I prefer to read a classic than a popular bestseller. Some of those popular bestsellers, should they stand the test of time, are going to end up as the new classics. The classics that I will be reading were previously popular bestsellers, more than likely. I think it does lead you into a whole different line of questioning over what is a classic. I'll leave that for another time. I don't see that as being snobbery. What I will run a mile from is any booktube video where someone tells you how the classics should be read. The classics should be read in the following ways: in Western script from left to right, in Arabic or Hebrew from right to left, and in Japanese from top to bottom. That's all the advice you need for reading. Prompt number 5. Have you ever bragged about reading a classic in order to sound smart? I don't think I've ever bragged about reading a classic. I have talked about reading classics, but I've talked about reading classics in the appropriate settings. University, booktube. Talking about reading classics doesn't get you far in many other places. And I'm always admitting classics that I've not read. I don't really count that as bragging either. I'm certainly not happy that I've not read classics. I wish I had read more. But we've all got our gaps in our reading, and it's a lifetime's work to try to fill those gaps. If you post on BookTube enough, admit where you've got those gaps, because you're going to make it plain at some point, and you may as well be upfront about it. Prompt number 6. Do audiobooks count as reading? Yes. I don't listen to audiobooks. They don't work for me. I wish they did, because I could squeeze a few more books in every year, but I can't concentrate on them. If I'm sat still listening to an audiobook, drift off. If I am out and about listening to an audiobook, I will be concentrating on something else. I will not be paying the due attention to the book that I would do if I was reading. That is a problem with me. That is not a problem with the method of imbibing the literature. You can't be snobby about which sense you've used to consume a book, because if you say it's only reading, what are you going to do with people who read through Braille? Prompt number 7. Have you ever looked down on someone for reading a popular fluff book? I don't think look down is the right word. I have been confused over why something is so popular a few times. Shortly after I moved to London, the big Harry Potter thing happened, and people who were on the tube reading books, and this is a time before smartphones, all of a sudden a large proportion of them were reading Harry Potter, and I just thought, why are we all reading children's books? This is not just to pick on Harry Potter. I've seen this happen with Dan Brown or E.L. James. I just probably don't understand why something becomes an overnight runaway success. I don't think it's snobbery. And I'm happy that people are reading, and I'm happy that people are enjoying what they are reading. I think I sometimes despair at the things that are published. Maybe that's the snobbery. Maybe that's the demarcation line of my snobbery. I can be snobby about the books, never snobby about the people who read them. Prompt number 8. Have you ever been the recipient of somebody else's snobbery? Yes, but not about books. Prompt number 9. Would you ever be friends with a snob? Yes, and I probably have been. I probably am. Some are fun. Some can be made fun of. It depends, I suppose, how their snobbery manifests itself. If you are in a little ivory tower, cloistered away in rarefied isolation culturally, that's one thing. That's fine. It's not snobbery not to read something that you don't think you'll enjoy reading. The snobbery that's not good is belittling other people for the choices of what they read. Prompt number 10. Are people who don't read less sophisticated than people who do? I think, probably, in the aggregate, yes. When you are a reader, you are taking on multiple points of view, empathetic, sympathetic positions you can take from multiple stances. That, to me, is sophistication. If you spend all day reading polemics, that's less likely to be the case if you are simply parroting what you are being told to think. If you are invited through literature, through non-fiction, to explore other perspectives, that is going to lead to sophistication. And I think in some other mediums of communication, television or film, you are being given a much narrower choice of interpretation. I think you are seeing much more a single vision, a single interpretation of a work. It's all contextual as well. Not to pick on Dan Brown too much, but if you're in the middle of an opera where everyone else is paying attention to the opera and you're just stuck with a nose in the Da Vinci Code, who's the more sophisticated? Prompt 11. Measure yourself. Based on your answers to the previous 10 questions, would you qualify as a book snob? I think I might. I flatter myself that I have wide-ranging reading tastes, but I still have choices I make, and I often plump for the same choices. I do like to stick in my favourite genres. I will never say never, but by and large, the majority of what I read is what I enjoy reading. I also enjoy reading some sort of slightly more esoteric stuff. Am I being a snob there? These certainly aren't classics. They usually weren't popular bestsellers, so I'm in the middle. And to be honest, some of these forgotten works that you read, it becomes apparent why they have been forgotten. I don't know. I will leave the decision on whether I'm a snob to other people. Prompt number 12. Tag some others. A lot of people have done this tag already. I'll find some who haven't and tag them below. But until next time.